Hi everyone, just before we get into another episode of What a Load of Bulls, we just want to give a shout out to our partners, Newcastle Car and Truck Rental. Newcastle Car and Truck Rental are a locally owned company servicing Newcastle and the Hunter. Todd Holden and family pride themselves on being part of the local community, and you feel that when you step through their doors. It isn't a different person every time you call, it's the same people taking care of business and taking care of you. So next time you're in need of a rental, be it a truck to move, a ute for those everyday DIY jobs, or a car to get the family around on a day out, be sure to contact the team at Newcastle Car and Truck Rental by visiting www.newcastlerental.com or by calling 02 49 081 081. And don't forget to tell them DJ and Simon sent you. Welcome back to What a Load of Bulls, folks, where the chat's great and the delivery sometimes is very questionable. This is episode 71. We're going to aim to keep this one out of the ditch, but there's definitely no guarantees. With me today, I've got Simon Little, and he still has not learned how to read a grain. Simon, welcome back to the podcast, man.
Thanks, DJ. I don't know if I would take an advice from you about reading a grain, but yeah, nice intro. Nice. Yep, glad to be back, and straight after an episode last week, so back to back. And getting some content out there. And I guess the reason why we're back to back is all down to the old PP3, isn't it? So we'll get stuck into that pretty soon. But look, DJ, something you spoke about lately. We're big Man United fans, aren't we?
Yeah.
Didn't go crash hot at the weekend, did we? But
No.
It gave you a bit of what's the word? Enthusiasm towards something, and made you reflect on English Premier League. Everyone's maybe not English Premier League fans as much as we are, but it sort of give you a bit of reflection on EPL and PP3 maybe.
Yeah.
Enlighten us?
Yeah, no, I think we'll at some point we'll do a bit of a review of how PP3 went. And then we'll dive into I think we make this episode all about Platinum Pennant and how it's been. I mean, we're 3 seasons in now. So I think it's a good time to maybe give our opinion on how we think it's gone. Has it done what it's meant to do? Has it been grabbing for the general public? Is it making people want to play the game type of thing? Is it making clubs want to aspire to get to that level? So I think we'll look at that. But one thing I was looking at, and I actually came up with a conversation with Anthony Cotty at one point, was just looking at the English Premier League table, getting nervous as to whether we're going to hang on to third spot or not. I'm just looking, going, how do all these Platinum Pennant sides stack up? Like, if you had to tick a Platinum Pennant side and compare it to an English Premier League side, which one would you pick? I think it would be quite a funny little thing to do just at the end here. So I think we'll look at that. Who's the Manchester Uniteds or the Chelseas or the Arsenals of the world? And yeah, maybe start a little bit of banter rolling and see how we go with that. But I think it'll be a fun one to do, mate. But yeah, we're going to do mostly Platinum, well, all Platinum Pennant on this one because we led into it last week. We've had the finals. What a final series it was again.
Yep.
Well done to everyone involved. And we'll get into it, mate, and have a look at some of the results. But just before we do, how is it being back at work, mate, after that nice little holiday over in Bali?
Yeah, it's definitely been a bit of an eye-opener. Back straight into some long days on site. And yeah, it's mentally fatiguing whenever you've had a break and all you've had to think about is getting up, going for a swim, having something to eat when you're on holidays. But yeah, back into work mode and back into thinking, and yeah, it's definitely took its toll this week on me. But anyway, we're into podcasting, never mind work. So yeah, it's all fun and games now, and looking forward to us having to think about this PP3 and how it all went. But yeah, I managed to catch some of the games over the weekend in between some family time. So yeah, had it on in the background and was tuning in. So yeah, it was great to watch on, and yeah, definitely lit the fire a bit to go, I mean, I wish I was there playing.
Yeah. I tuned in for a bit of the major semi on Saturday night and just caught Lee Stinson, the back end of Lee Stinson talking about how many pies a player had ate. And I thought, what am I listening to? But yeah, I've fronted Lee about that there. I've brushed up on his commentary skills after that, but he's done all right. But I tuned in for a little bit of that one. And then, yeah, tuned in for the grand final. Wasn't able to get over there. Yana had a shift at work, and rather than dragging my 3 kids out there to bowls, and what seemed to be on, like we said last week on the episode, and what you could see on the TV was a very partisan crowd in Raymond Terrace.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So rather than drag them all out there, I'll just sit back on YouTube and watch it and see how we go. So how did the weekend go? Righto. So we opened up on the Saturday lunchtime. And we had the elimination final and the qualifying final. So the elimination final was between 4th and 5th, and the qualifying final was between 2nd and 3rd to get a chance to play against Raymond Terrace. All right, so the elimination final, Cabramatta Bullants up against Wenty League's Magpies. Wenty League's and our good friend Franklin Fong up there, battling it out with the big boys this year. They managed to get in there to the top 5. How did they go? They scored 57 shots. Cabramatta scored 58 shots. It went right down to the very last ball of the game, apparently, according to Franklin. I didn't catch that one, but wow, what an opening game to the weekend.
Yeah,
that was Cabramatta getting over Wenty Leagues by just the one shot. I'm sure Wenty would be obviously disappointed not to go that one higher, but I tell you what, if you'd offered them that at the start of the season before a ball had been played, I dare say they would have ripped your arm off for that.
Absolutely. I did catch that game, and I did see the end of it, and I did watch the last end. But look, prior to that, I was tuning in and out every sort of 10 ends, 12, 15 ends, seeing how the scores were going. It was definitely to and fro. Like, nobody got out to a big lead. It was a close game the whole way through. And yeah, it was a bit of a nail biter at the end, coming down to the sort of last bowl. So,
well, I caught a few of
It was really good, and it kept me sort of wanting to watch more and watch that last few ends to see. So, yeah, I was glad that I tuned in towards the end. And look, I'm gutted for Wenty, and I was hoping they would sort of get that win and sneak on through, but not to be. But yeah, the guy's done a great job, and yeah, well done to Wenty.
Well, that game actually dished up me because I like watching the little shorts that pop up. And that game actually dished up my favorite highlight of the weekend. And it wasn't the bowl that was played, it was the celebration after the bowl. So it was. And I know you've seen it because you sent it to me. I think you sent it to me on one social media platform as I was sending it to you on another social media platform. But Kane Nelson's played an absolute bomb. Franklin Fong is their first one to celebrate. He's gone for the high 10. Kane's gone for the single high 5. And he hasn't caught Franklin's hands, but he has caught Franklin right in the face.
That was
so
pretty
what Frankie
funny.
tells me is he lost sight of it in the sun. But yeah, Franklin caught that right in the face. And that was, mate, as good as the finals weekend was, that was definitely my favorite highlight.
Definitely, yeah. Good shout out to our number one fan. Good on Franklin. He's always keen to get in touch with us, isn't he? So big shout out to Franklin. Played some awesome bowls. I was definitely watching on. He was on the live stream. So yeah, played some really good balls. So yeah, hats off to all them boys, and yeah, well done.
I was asking him about that because he's improved out of sight over the last few years, mate. Just perseverance, and he loves the game. He's always involved in it. I mean, what do you put it down to? And he goes, DJ, all those Easters playing the Terry Harmer Pairs at Maitland City. No, that I am today. He did, mate. He said it 100%. You ask him.
Not on your greens. I'm glad you've dug them up because they were
I
think
what he was saying was because he could play so well on those greens, he could play well anywhere. And they're not as bad as what you make them out, mate. And you haven't been up here for about 10 years. So
there was a reason why, because the greens were so terrible.
Turn it up. Jeez, you're getting offensive in this episode.
It's okay. You're putting in a brand new facility. It's okay. It'll be
unbelievable. Yeah,
the best in the state now.
You won't be invited. You'll be off in Brisbane. This was announced last week. I got asked this week, how are you going to cope without Simon? I was like, mate, he's in Sydney at the minute. There's going to be no difference. So we just have to work out the time difference for half of the year. That's all right.
Yeah, we are. We're going to have to work. I'm going to have to get into that. That's going to. I think I'll fall fault with that a few times, maybe.
Yeah, it'll be too complicated for you. But anyway, right. So Cabramatta then have advanced, and unfortunately for Wenty, one shot short of making it through in the other game. So the loser of this game of Warilla and St. John's then play Cabramatta, and the winner of this game moves on to play Raymond Terrace, with the winner of that game advancing to the grand final. That's their cherry that they're trying to get to. This one was another tight one, mate. Only 3 shots separated this one, and it was Warilla 57-54 over St. John's Park Saints. So what a game that was. I was third, overcoming second in that game. So tight season, tight game there, which puts Warilla on to play Raymond Terrace, like we said, for a chance to play in that grand final and have the Sunday morning off. Whereas the other game, the winner of that game moves on to the Sunday morning to play the loser of the other game we just talked about. The loser goes home. just as you cut all that rubbish out there, Simon, I'll have a quick correction. It was actually Warilla that finished second over St John's Park. So second did beat third, which moves us on to St John's Park from third position in the ladder against Cabramatta in fourth position of the ladder. Loser goes home. Winner moves on to Sunday morning into the preliminary final. And it was a tight game all the way through, but it was Cabramatta that just ran away at the end with a 58-48 shots victory. And that sent St John's Park packing, unfortunately, and not making it through to the next stage. But good season for St John's. They turned it around pretty well after the year before. They're a bit disappointed the year before. But yeah, they turned it around this year, got back in that top 5, finished third on the ladder. They will be disappointed with that result, especially going out in the finals in straight sets. But I'll tell you what, it's one of the good stories for how they were able to turn that around with just a couple of new faces and sticking with what they've got and moving up there. So, like I said, disappointed to lose to those local rivals, but Cabramatta was on this instance. I think there was a couple of there might have been definitely one rink made a change, the positional change that you were allowed to do during the game.
Yeah.
Seen a bit of that over the final series, so we did. So it was an interesting change up. And in the other game, it actually ended up, I know 14 shots doesn't sound one-sided, but Raymond Terrace got over the top of Warilla, and it was tight early, but the Warilla guys just seemed to all fall away, and like Gary was trying to get them up and about and just wasn't getting much of a response at times. Like 3 down, hits the head, gets a 1, and barely gets a high 5 out of it. Like that's where you got to get up and about, especially if you're with like Gary. Gary's the spiritual leader of that team now, and we've been in that position where he's your spiritual leader and he's up and about, and you go with him.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference. That just makes a big difference, gets people up and about. But I was looking at the TV thinking, gee, some of these guys have just got their head around their ankles. Are they going to be able to respond tomorrow? Like, are they done now? Like, it's something, body language says a lot for it. So I was starting to question whether Warilla were they were halfway through that game. And I'm thinking, are they done for the weekend, let alone just done for that game?
But maybe it was in the back of their mind going, we've got another bite of this cherry. It's not really that important. Like, does that play into it? Like you go, well, it doesn't really matter if we win. We're not out. We're still in the comp if we get beat.
But they're still celebrating shots and stuff, Simon. It just wasn't going on. A lot of head shaking, a lot of things they got there. Heads down around the ankles, like I said. But it was probably a similar position to what Maryland's found themselves in last year. After dominating the season and then going down in those the next 2 games, they lost round 11, then they lost the first game of the finals. And they look done too. I've got to be honest, they look done too. But they've obviously gone back, regrouped, had a chat to themselves. So Warilla have come back the next morning in that preliminary final, like we said. Raymond Terrace are straight into the grand final in their home venue. Warilla Gorillas have come up against Cabramatta Bullants, and mate, they pulled themselves together 56-47 in that game as well. So tight games all around. There was only the 9 shots in that one, but it was 9.5 to half in terms of rinks. So Warilla got the 2 rinks up to the 1 draw. So that leads us on to, like we said, the grand final, which is first versus second. The minor premiers up against second on the ladder, and Raymond Terrace at home. So how did this one play out, Simon? Did you watch this one, or you just sort of tuned in on this one?
No, I did. Yeah, I didn't watch it all fully, but I tuned in and out every couple of ends and was had it on in the background kind of thing. So I did see a fair bit of balls played and what was happening and going on. So yeah, your prediction from last episode.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. I did tune in. I tuned in for the whole game. I was gripped, and it was nothing to do with the commentary. It was all to do with the play on the green. All right. So, but it was such a good game. It ebbed and it flowed, and one team got out to a bit of a lead. The other team brought it back in, and they overtook, and then the other one came back again. And I just want to break down sort of a couple of end blocks. Like we know ourselves. And it's probably a good thing for some listeners to listen to in terms of, 21 ends, for a rink, 63 ends for a team. There is a lot that can go on in that.
Yeah.
And there's little pockets where you need to respond and try to get, just getting all 3 rinks to win that end makes a massive difference.
Can make a huge difference. You pick up a 2 or 3, multiples across 3
so
rinks.
I want to look at ends 11 through to 15. And then I want to look at ends 16 through to 19.
Yeah.
And then I want to look at ends 20 through to 21. All right. So like I said, it was pretty tight at this point. All right. We get to ends 11 on each of the scorecards. Okay. So on this particular rink, over that period of 11 to 15. Raymond Terrace won that game 8, 11, 12 to 3 over that block. So they're 12-3 up over that block, yeah?
Yeah.
Then you go on to rink 2. Okay, and that 11 to 15 block, it is Raymond Terrace have again won that 2, 4, 5, 6 to 1.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we up to now? 18 to 4. I'll help you out, mate. 18 to 4. All right. And then the final rink, that'll end 11 to 15. That was 3 to Warilla, so they're up to 7. And that was 4 to Raymond Terrace, a bit tighter there. But that's a 22 to 7 win for Raymond Terrace over that block of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, across the 3. Now, obviously, before listeners get into this, they're not all playing end 11, end 12, end 13 at the same time. Obviously, there's swings and roundabouts.
Yep.
But just look at that particular block. Raymond Terrace have dominated that block 22 to 7. So now we move on to the next one that I want to talk about, which is ends 16, 17, 18, and 19. All righty? So that particular rink that went 3-1 to Warilla's favor. The other rink was the big one. All right. That particular block there was 7-0.
Oh, yeah.
In favor of Warilla. All right. So now we've gone to 10-1 to Warilla without going to the third rink. Then you go to the third rink, and they've gone again Warilla to 0. 5-0 there. So what was that?
15-1.
15-1. They've won that next block.
Yeah.
Now that's how you respond. So you lose one block 22 to 7. You win the next block 15-1, and that's what put Warilla at the head at the end. So playing the last few ends, Warilla's up by 7 shots.
Yeah.
Then you get the ends 20 and 21. So in the J-By Norris Gary Kelly ring, J-By's finished off by taking 4-0, or 4-0 over those 2 ends.
Yeah.
Corey Wedlock's countered that against Lee Strainer, which ended up being Colin Litfin because they switched. They won that one 5-0 over those 2 ends. All right. So they've jumped ahead there by 1. And then the other game was 2 each in the finish. Now, we'll talk about the second 2 in a little second. But my days, what a finish it sat up to be. Like, this was shaping up to rival Cabramatta versus Warilla in Platinum Pennant 1.
The very first one, yeah.
Yeah, the very first one. So that was unbelievable. And another mention to Warilla, which we should have mentioned earlier, sorry. This is their 3rd grand final in a row.
They had a bit of a hoodoo going, didn't they?
Absolutely. 3 years in a row they've made it in there. So we go 2 ends left to play in the Matty Boyce versus Aaron T's rink. You've got Raymond Terrace down by 3 shots. Very tight-headed bowls. Exactly what you want to see from all the players. It's definitely won the Raymond Terrace. Matty's got a chance on the backhand to make 2, 3, 4 out of it, but comes with an element of risk.
Yeah, it was a bit of risk. He could have got a bowl on the jack and moved it and not scored.
I have no doubt earlier in the game, Matty plays that shot. Okay, but they had to, again, it just shows you that you're playing the scenario as well here.
Yeah.
So you get down to that, and he's just played an absolute roar with his first one. He's nearly got it. So he's corrected with his...
About half a bowl kind of thing.
So he's corrected with the next one. He's dropped the Lennon Scott bowl back, which was a measure anyway. He's dropped that back to make 2, and then his a measure for 3, and he's just missed out on that measure to go into the last end 1 up.
Yeah.
Or 1 down, sorry. 1 down. He was playing the last end overall.
And I think they stood talking for a fair bit on the rink about that shot. And there's a few players came out and actually looked at it as well, that weren't on that rink, wasn't there, by memory?
Oh yeah, by all means, that was a team decision. That wasn't just that rink's decision.
That wasn't just that rink decision.
He spoke to everyone else.
Yeah, and I think I heard the guy saying in commentary that in the end, when they were standing, and Matty Boyce was discussing, do I play the risky shot to try and get 4 or 5, and that would give them maybe a 1-2 shot lead going into the last kind of scenario, or do we just take the couple of shots and let's get all square, 1 behind, still in the game without sort of conceding, and then it's game over. But in the end, I think there was a call from an old head and was sitting at the back of the rink, Mr. Stokes, I think, piped up, draw the shot, and what do you know? He turns around, drops 1 back, scores a couple, and they're in the game, like, without playing a risky shot that could have just lost it all there and then. You're still in the game, like, scoring 1 or 2. So it was interesting watching that and all the guys getting involved in that discussion. It wasn't just a Matty Boyce decision. It was a lot of players involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we go to the final end of the whole of PP3. Raymond Terrace trail by 1. They're undefeated throughout the whole season. They're playing on their home patch. Simon Little has branded them hot favourites last week.
Yeah.
So he has. And I felt like it was definitely you could say it was a little bit of a nervy end. I thought they've gone their usual T to T. And Warilla were holding 3 or 4 by the time Lennon Scott got on the map, but there was still room.
Yeah.
And Lennon Scott knows that place like the back of his hand. So he puts his first one in there, gets the shot. So now we're sitting for a draw overall. All right. Des Cans had a couple of draw shots and missed tight. Lennon's missed with the second one. Didn't quite get in there. I think he was only a couple of feet short of drawing for a second one. All right. Then up steps Teasy and Matty Boyce. Boyce's put his first one a bit long. Teasy's gone a bit long. Boyce was in a little. He'll be kicking himself, mate, because that's if I was looking at of all the players they've got there, if that's the rink I want to be last, if there's a rink I want to be last on, that's the one.
Yeah, he was playing some great balls.
I'm happy on that surface to have Matty Boyce playing the last ball for me. Now, J.B. Norris has had an absolute roaring 3 or 4 months. So, yeah, you got to give credit to him there. But Matty Boyce is the man over there as far as I'm concerned. And he'll be disappointed leaving that one short. You can see he was kicking himself. But they're still in the game and Teasy's still got a shot to play. So the question is, do you draw up, try to get the shot, or do you just go for the 2 balls? So he's decided to go for the 2. No, I said 2 balls. It was their ball locked onto a Warilla ball, but you get the 2 of them out, Warilla win the game.
Yeah.
So Teasy's gone for the runner. Set up for what a climax this could be. We're either going to have Teasy sail by, miss it, and we go to an extra end where all 3 rinks have to come back out. Or Teasy's going to be the hero. He's going to clean that ball out, and Warilla's going to be champions at the 3rd attempt.
But before we go any further, there was a chance. That's 2 options you gave. There was a 3rd option. If he got the jack over on one side of the rink, they were Raymond Terrace balls sitting at the back.
There was only 2.
Lost a couple.
There was only 2. There was only 2 back there, and I think if Teasy gets that to get the jack out there, Teasy's running through and cleaning a couple of things out. I don't think there was risk really until you seen the ball come out of his hand. And it just like you're just watching these guys play absoluters after absoluters, and Teasy lets one go tight, glance, gets the jack, moves it, locks onto a Warilla ball, 2 shots, and it's just like, man, oh man, that's not the way.
Nah.
Like, all credit to Warilla, I'm not taking anything away, all right? And the game was not won or lost on that ball. It just happened to be the last ball played. But man, oh man, that was set up for such a conclusion and for it to happen with that particular ball, because you didn't get a celebration out of it then, Simon. All the lower graders listen and pay attention to that.
It was dead silent.
It was silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Not one Warilla person clapped or high-fived. Teasy was standing there apologizing with his hands on his head. That's not how anybody in the game wants to win a match or a championship in the end.
Yeah.
All right? And I tell you, as much as you said it last week, that Raymond Terrace were heavy favourites and it was theirs to lose. Nobody deserves to lose a game like that. That was criminal. And it shouldn't, and it won't. At the end of the day, they can sit back and reflect on that season. That was a phenomenal season. Record points scored in the regular season, 97.5. They were undefeated, had 1 draw in the last round against Soldiers Point. They beat everyone else. They only had the 4 or 5 home games. It was the split wasn't for them in terms of home and away games. Minor premiers. Mate, they deserved to win that whole thing, but it just wasn't to be in that particular game, and that's the way bowls goes. That's just so disappointed, personally, to watch it happen in that manner.
Yeah, it was. After, as you said, it was such a tight game the whole way through, ebbed and flowed, and it got to this climax of, okay, it's down to the very last bowl. The whole championship is down to this very last bowl to see who wins. And that's the why we love playing bowls at times, that it comes down to one bowl, that it's winner takes all, loser goes home with nothing, and it's like that level of competition and competitiveness and everyone's desire to win all boils down to that moment. And it's like, even sitting watching it, you could feel that. I could feel that, and it was like, it was great to watch. And all of a sudden, it was like, oh, that's the way it ended. It was just like, yeah, he's saying it's not the way you wanted it to, but yeah, it's disappointing, but
that's balls.
That is balls.
We know we've played it long enough. We have had results like that. We've had results go for us and against us. We've lost games like that. Probably won games like that. It is what it is. It can't take away from the season, but it's just a shame that that's what people are going to remember it for.
Yeah.
Because there's so many storylines in that. I mean, Raymond Terrace at home, minor premiers, like I said, a record season pretty much. And then that happens to them on their own venue, the chance to win it in front of their home crowd, who have been amazing for the whole weekend. Like, there hasn't been a crowd like that in 3 finals. Like, I was there commentating last year, the grand final, there was nobody there.
Yeah.
All right. You take it up to Raymond Terrace and they're lying on both sides. Like, there was people from Soldiers Point came down. You know, they all traveled to watch it. I know from talking to one of our bowlers on Sunday morning up at Singleton when the girls had a soccer trial on. One of the guys his daughters was playing, goes, I've just got a text from Ruffy, one of the guys at Singleton, who wants to go to the Platinum Pennant finals, you know, and they've driven all the way out to Raymond Terrace to watch that. So the Newcastle area gets behind that type of event, which was great. And they did get right behind it too. So such a success. So it was. And then you look at Warilla's storyline as well. I mean, they've got the 3 big names there, the Gary Kelly, the Aaron Tees, and the Corey Wedlock. But this is the last time you're going to see them play for Warilla together because Corey's already accepted an offer at another club. That meant a lot to them.
There was definitely some emotion at the end. I've seen some pictures. And
I messaged Corey. I said, stop crying, mate. And he goes, don't tell you're telling me about it. But I'll tell you what, like, there was no, that just shows you the type of person Corey is too. Like, he wasn't there just, I've moved on. He was there to win. That meant so much to him to win that to go out. He won his last 7 ends, Simon.
Yeah.
They won the last 7 ends on that TV rink. You know, it meant the absolute world to them. You've seen them all hugging and cuddling in the end. You know, there's a photograph of the three skippers at the end with their rings and stuff like that there, which I think is a great initiative. I know a lot of the American sports do that, so it's great to see. It's something different from a medal or a cap or something like that there. They all get their rings now they can wear. Yeah, Gary says his fits perfectly onto his wedding finger, so he is married to the game. Yeah. But yeah, it was nice to see them win it. Like, you'd hate to see it was going to be a tough loss for anyone. Like, Raymond Terrace had such a good season; they didn't want to lose it there and then on their home venue. And Warilla were in their 3rd grand final in a row.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They were so close against Cabramatta 2 years ago. Last year was a bit of a runaway in the final in the end. Corey's last hurrah. So many storylines set up there. It was a great conclusion to a great competition again, I thought, mate.
Yeah. Look, the last bowl aside, set that aside. I think the whole finals weekend, what I tuned into the games and updates on social media and everything's on YouTube. Anytime I turned on YouTube over the weekend, it was first up there. You know, bowls live streamed or a replay from the game previous day or whatever it may be. So I think from production value, everything that they put out there in terms of Bowls New South Wales for this event, for the finals, I thought it was fantastic. And I actually tuned in and wanted to watch, and that's all credit to the guys and everything they've done to put that together, and also the players to put on a great spectacle of bowls. And it shows across the scores of all those games. There was only that one match that was double figures. The rest were all single figures, 2-3 shots in it, you know, over multiple hours of bowls, and it boils down to 1 or 2 shots in the end. And that's what we want to see. We want to see those tight finishes and the competitiveness to really drive on and win at the end. So hats off to all the players involved in that. I thought it was a great weekend of bowls.
A Max Bowling Green canopy isn't just about comfort on the green, it's about investing in your club's future. Less maintenance, more play, more events, and more reasons for members to keep coming back. That's value you'll see for years to come. For long-term value, make it a Max. So it brings us on to, mate, before we move on to a recap of the 3 seasons that we've had, like we said, has it been a success or not? This particular season, let's get right into it. Let's go look at some maybe a team that maybe overachieved compared to what we thought, a team that maybe underachieved compared to what we thought, and maybe some vast improvements or from the season before, mate. So have you got any clubs that stand out as a overachiever?
I'd have to pick Wendy Leagues. Like, we didn't really pick them to make the top 5, and I don't think too many others would have. definitely think they overachieved. But the being in contact with one or two at Wenny leagues, they definitely put the work on the green, like pre-season.
Yeah.
And they didn't just rock up with the same team and hope for some wins to come out of the bag. They definitely put some work into their squad, into what they were doing before and the lead up. Practice sessions, getting guys doing specific drills, wherever it may be, but they definitely put hard work in, and hats off to them. And it sort of showed and paid off that, you know, they got those wins to get into the final and put a good performance in the finals. So hats off to them guys. And definitely, I think the other one would have been St. John's Park from where they finished last season. Probably definitely a disappointing season for them, and maybe a little kick up the bum. And let's go hard next season. And what do we got to do to turn it around? So well done to them too. I think.
I'd say that's your big improvement from the year before. Based on basically, you know, not so much an overachiever in terms of like their roster's very, very good. Like, and they've sprinkled it, like we said earlier, sprinkled a few little things around it, and they've moved up from, what was it, 7th last year or whatever it was, and they finished 3rd in the ladder, and then 4th overall after the final series. So yeah, St. John's have definitely made the strides that they needed to. I suppose you have to say underachievers. You really got to say last year's minor and major premiers.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Maryland's.
Maryland's really missing out on finals. Who would have picked that? But in saying that, it's like when we get into dive into the three of them, last year was the only time they've made finals in the 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So it's certainly an interesting one.
So what do you like? Here's a maybe quick one for you. What do you think makes the difference in those teams? Because you look at the rosters of the majority of those teams, like even, you know, your Wenny leagues, who we've said maybe overachieved, their back end players they're all pretty similar. They're all elite top level bowlers. And what is the difference between the team that finishes 7th, 8th, 9th and your Warillas? Like, what is the difference? What do you think?
It's a hard one, mate. You said yourself, like, Wenty put the effort in this year. They've been rewarded for the amount of effort they put in on the green this year, like in preparation for it, pre-season and things, like the amount of trials and things they had, the amount of different players that they trialed out. My big thing is, if you look at Maryland's this year to last year, a lot of chopping and changing throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
Omar, being their key player, had a bit of traveling around to do as well. Like that last particular weekend where they needed to win, he's just off the plane from South Africa. Now, I haven't spoke to Omar directly or anything, but you can't tell me that jet lag wasn't affected in that as well, you know, so that's not ideal. So things they got there aren't ideal for that particular weekend, but they probably didn't expect to be fighting come the last weekend either. But just the chopping and changing, whereas last year when they dominated, it was the same 12 pretty much going out every week, maybe 1 or 2 changes throughout the season. But this time it seemed to be a lot of chopping and changing. I think the likes of Wenty have a very good culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are Wenty players born and bred in there, and they've brought in anyone they've brought in seems to fit what they're trying to do there. You know what I mean? So they've done pretty well there. There's a lot to be said for a team that plays as a team.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's hard to achieve. It is hard to achieve at times.
It really can be. You got to work hard on it, because at the end of the day, mate, when you've got 12 different personalities in there, when you got 12 different bowlers in there and probably 36 different personalities, they're not all going to get along all the time, but they need to be striving. As long as they're striving for that same goal and there's a mutual respect, then it can work. Like, you don't need to be best friends and know each other's birthdays and favorite colors.
Yeah,
but you need to be able to go out there and wear the same shirt and battle it out. You know what I mean? I'm not saying other clubs don't do that, but I think you could see in some instances there would have been a few that did struggle with that.
Yeah.
And that's when the daggers come out after games and stuff, which, we'll not get into that too much, obviously. It's a bit of a downturner, but it does happen. But I think that's where Wenty have benefited this year, and they've reaped the rewards by making a top 5 for the first time.
I think looking for watching some of the games over the weekend, I think it's definitely up front. It's your front ends that make the difference in those sides, because all the teams have great back end players that can play wonder bowls, turn heads, make some really good results. But the players up front is what really sets a really good rank up. And have a look at what Warilla did. One of their fly-in marquee players played lead.
Yeah.
Chris Razans.
Yep.
So there you go. A fly-in marquee player you'd expect to be playing back end. But
yeah, that's the stereotype, isn't it?
It's the stereotype, isn't it? But they put him at lead, fighting great with 2 balls, roll the jack where you want it to be. And that was key, I think, on the Raymond Terrace rinks at times, was controlling that jack length, to be honest. You've seen it. There was a couple of ends I've seen that maybe just that Jack went a little bit too far. All of a sudden, struggling with the end. You've been nailing a consistent length. Jack goes a meter or two too much, and all of a sudden, opposition are in. Hang on, this head's a bit of a scattered head than previous, and they managed to jag a win. So I think that's pretty key, and something our listeners can take to their club, that it's not all about back end players playing wonder balls to win games. That it's really front ends can build that solid foundation and make it extremely difficult for the opposition, put them into pressured situations straight off the bat. So I think that's what those elite teams do really well.
It's the old adage, mate. Like, I always knew growing up playing rugby and that people will tell you forwards win the game and the backs determined by how much. To me, it's always been the same with front ends, especially at the elite level.
Yeah.
Front ends will win you the game. The back ends will determine by how much they win that by. Now, don't get me wrong, everyone can have a standout performance and win the game on their own from skipper.
Yeah.
But if you're under the pump for 21 particular ends because you're leading second or dominating, then your third's tipping in there as well. All you got to do is sit balls out and stuff. If you're playing your game and your front tier are doing the job, you're going to win that by an absolute bundle. You know what I mean? So yeah, by all means, that's a big part. They've built the teams well. Like Franklin's just happy to go in there and play lead. For instance, you know what I mean? And that there's so much to be said for that. So much to be said for that. Because when you get to that level, it is a specialist position. It takes a very special person to be able to do that. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Well done to Wenty in their season. Well done to everyone in the season. I think a big credit to Raymond Terrace, mate. Like, they had a phenomenal season. That was a horrible, horrible way to go out, unfortunately. But it is the game of bowls. It is what happens. So, over the course of the 3 seasons, mate, I'll just throw some random stats at you anyway, all right? So, there's 14 sides have played in the competition. We had the initial 12. They played the second year. We had 2 teams relegated. Can you remember who they were, Simon?
Gosh, gone, distant memory now.
Oh, Mount Lewis and Tarrant Point.
Okay.
Then came Charlestown and Soldiers Point, all right? Plus all the regulars. There's only 3 sides have made the finals 3 times. Alrighty. There's 1 side has made the final twice. And then there's 3 sides have made the finals 1 time each. All right? So Raymond Terrace have made it 3 times. Warilla have made it 3 times. Cabramatta's made it 3 times. St. John's Park's made it twice. Wenty Lakes have made it once. Engadine Cougars have made it once. Mount Lewis have made it once. And I beg your pardon, there's another one. Marylands have only made the top 5 once in 3 seasons. And that was the year that they took it out and they won it. All right. So it shows you that there's not, like we've said in the last 2 seasons, our predictions have pretty much been around a top 5. And it hasn't been right every time.
No.
You know what I mean? Like Mount Lewis were the top 5 in year 1, got relegated year 2. Wenty were close to relegation last year at one point. They've got into top 5 this year. St. John's Park were top 5 in year 1, year 3, and missed out in year 2. So, and Engadine Cougars relegated this year, but were in the fifth spot last year.
Yeah.
5th spot seems to be an unlucky one for the relegation.
It does.
So it does. Who's that? Oh, Wenty. Wenty's gone next year, Simon. Get your predictions in quick. Don't tell Franklin. But, so it's doing a job. It's exposing new people to the game. There's been a few changes here or there with the teams as well to expose new people to the game. It's bringing the elite players in. I honestly think, and Gary said it in his speech, and that says a lot, because Gary plays in every bowls game he possibly can, in every state that he can. He reckons this is the best club competition going around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true from what I've seen of all the others. And it's not disrespecting them, because there's such good competitions anyway and good players in all of them. But this is an elite competition, which is what we need in our game.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, Simon, and the amount of exposure to different players and the amount of exposure to different clubs, do you think it's doing the good job?
Well, it's a very broad question, but
you have played 2 seasons as well.
It is a very broad question, because there's a lot of sort of topics that you want it to do, or a lot of aspects you want it to do, and that's you want to market the game, you want to get, as you said, the elite players playing in it. You want interest from maybe non-bowlers as well. You want bowlers to get interested in it, and that's something that I think over the last number of years playing at Bowls New South Wales at top tier club level, that it's how do you get the lower grade players interested in the top grade players? How do you get the mid grade bowlers wanting to strive and play in that top tier of club bowls, that's what it's got to do for me. It's got to drive that sort of participation within our sport, within bowlers that are already playing, and also get a few eyeballs on new people going, hang on, what's this here? So, look, I think the live streaming, everything on YouTube, that you don't have to pay for subscribe TV or whatever, I think that's all good for getting some eyes on the game. In terms of the content and production that Bowls New South Wales have put together, I think is really good compared to other stuff you see, not in Australia, but in other countries and that you see live streamed. We're way beyond what other countries are doing, I think, and definitely at the forefront of production value from a state level or regional level. I think we're way ahead of that. So all that is really, really good. Does it get other bowlers interested in it? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it does. I think it, like I sit and watch it at times, it makes me get the juices flowing again and want to go out and have a game, which has certainly dropped off over the last few years personally. But watching games like that and watching the elite talent like that, it certainly makes you want to go out there and play. Mm. And it does. I would much rather sit and watch the grand final of that than a state championship final, personally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think to me, our pennant competition here in New South Wales is the pinnacle and needs to be. It's the Test cricket. It's pinnacle. It is what everyone should be aspiring to play. And there's no sport like it in terms of there's 7 grades. Well, 8 because you climb Platinum Pennant. There's 8 grades that you can represent your club in. And if you win your regional one, you go to a state final. There's no other sport like that. 3rd grade cricket here in Maitland, 5th grade cricket here in Maitland doesn't go to a state final and play in Wagga.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Good point.
Yeah. So that is both a strength and a weakness for us for our state finals. All right, because there's 7 grades of players, 7 grades of 16 regions, all travel on the one weekend to go and play in a game. So this is why I'm happy Platinum Pennant's not played at the same time, because people get to sit and watch
definitely.
That.
Yeah,
I think the Sunday night was a brilliant success. No, I think it was a little bit fluky because they started an hour and a half after the scheduled time.
Yeah.
I don't think they took into account these guys liking to kill ends and take their time over heads and stuff, but it started an hour and a half, but it gave for a great atmosphere there at Raymond Terrace, but it gave for a great watch on the TV and having a look at YouTube every now and again. And there was anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000 people watching that at any given time.
Yeah.
So it's doing its job there. I mean, and as you said, the production is right. We've had 3 years of that now. If I'm being fussy, I'd like to see it stepping up and being on, if we can get it on Foxtel, even just the final series to start with, or even on free-to-air TV to get it out there to the masses and get more people onto it. That's what I would personally like to see. And I know YouTube's easy to get to and stuff, but I'd say of that 4,000 to 5,000 people, 99.9999999% of that are already in the game. So we got to get it out there to more people to get more people into the game.
Yeah.
All right. I do think it inspires people to watch that and then go out and play pennants for their club. Mm-hmm. And it's certainly got clubs interested to go, I want to be a part of that now.
Would Maitland City be one of those clubs?
Absolutely. Our aspirations to be there. It won't be next year, but we'll be keeping an eye on that and trying to build a squad that can get in and be competitive in there. 100% I'd love to be in that competition because that's the exposure for your club. Everyone should be aspiring to be in that competition. Build your club up to be to that. Now, I know it's tough. Like a lot of the talent are in that competition already. Yeah. But there is plenty of talent around the place that aren't getting exposed to it that can use that as a platform.
Yeah, and
really showcase themselves.
We spoke about that on many episodes about the amount of club level talent there is in Australia. When you come up against a really good club level player, it's chalk and cheese to other countries around the world, like most definitely. Yeah. And we've said about the number of people. Australia could put out a numerous number of teams into World Championships and Commonwealth Games, and they could compete on many different fronts. If they had a squad of 30, you could put quality teams out. So there is that depth that, as you say, there is plenty of players out there that are unbeknownst, that aren't in the big 4 or 5 clubs that always pop up. That there's a heap of bowlers out there that would definitely put a good show on and put some quality bowls down.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's a great product, and I think everything's building year on year, and it's got to keep building year on year. That's the challenge, to keep building and not rest on your laurels. And we were hoping that after year 1. Year 2 was good. Year 3's been brilliant, I think. What have we got in store for PP4? Trademark it, Simon, as soon as we get off this episode. PP4.
Well, I thought one really good addition to PP3 at the very start was that intro sort of
brilliant
video.
Brilliant. It's another building block, wasn't
really
it?
Good. Yeah. And I thought the graphics that they did through Facebook and everything they posted over the weekends and the run up to it, I thought was on point, absolutely on point, really well done, and not AI generated. None of this that I see splashed all over social media at the moment that doesn't even look like bowls, because AI doesn't fully understand lawn bowls. So well done to Bowls New South Wales. I thought it was really good. So here's maybe something to take it up a notch. Now that we've got that kind of marketing level, I think marketing level of content really good. As you said, let's take it to the masses. Can we get something where there's a few players go down somewhere, go down to Sydney Opera House, let's do a little fucking intro, get Channel 7, Sunrise involved, like let's get it in there, like come up with something that we can, a free, get involved with lawn bowls, get a little short mat out there in front of Sydney Opera House or do something like that. It's not far from the old Bowls New South Wales office, you know. They can walk around the corner and roll a few bowls in front of Sydney Opera House and let's take it to the next level.
Yeah, for sure, mate. It's just got to keep building on and building on and building on it. That's always going to be the challenge. I mean, the players are going to dish up the product for you anyway.
Yeah.
But how do you promote that product now is the big thing. Like we've seen that in the 3 seasons. The players are going to deliver. The clubs are going to deliver. What's going to happen next year with 2 new teams coming in? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that develops and where we go with that. Magic Round. Does Magic Round need to be held within the competition? Can Magic Round be taken to Tamworth? Can it be taken to Wagga? Can it be taken to Ballina? You know, Yamba's doing a lot of good things up there, as we see with that announcement there recently too. Another big event up there. They've had inter-regions already. They got the number 1 pennants coming up, so they're promoting bowls in that area pretty well. They'd love to have it. Imagine what you would get up there for a Platinum Pennant coming to watch.
Yeah,
you know, things they got there, just things that could be banded around, and like I said, mate, we just got to keep building and building and building on it, and see where we can take it. Because, like we said, the players and the clubs have proved over the 3 seasons that they can deliver. So they can. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one to see. So looking across, I just had a quick look there again, mate, while you were chatting away. So as we mentioned before, 3 teams have made the finals for 3 years in a row. All right.
Okay.
2 of them have won it. Cabramatta and Warilla.
Yeah.
Cabramatta were minor premiers 1 year. Warilla have never been minor premiers, but have made 3 grand finals. And Raymond Terrace were minor premiers this year and went down in the final. Unfortunately for them, that was the first year that the minor premier hasn't taken out the major. But I just had a quick look, mate. So over the course of the 3 seasons, you have Cabramatta on 245 points.
Yeah.
You've got Warilla on 247.5 points.
Yeah.
You've got Raymond Terrace on 261
Whoa.
points.
Way ahead.
So over the 3 seasons, Raymond Terrace, in terms of the regular season, have been the best performed.
2 games in front.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, they're undefeated this year, so no losses there. They lost 3 games last year, and they lost 2 games the year before, so 5 losses in 3 years. It's not a bad record. Cabramatta lost 1 in the first year. They lost 3 in the second year, so they're up to 4. And then they lost 3 this year, so they're 7 losses. And then Warilla lost 2 this year, lost 2 the year before, and lost 2 the year before, 6 losses. So they're pretty consistent. But they've got a few draws in there as well. They had 2 draws in year 2. So they had. So, yeah, I mean, and Raymond Terrace are not blemished, but they had 1 draw this year in the final round. So if they get over that game too, like just 1 more shot there, that's another win. So they're even further ahead. So it just shows you how good Raymond Terrace have delivered. And we talked about it earlier as well, and just to go back to them, but they've built that squad up from within.
Yeah. Those guys have been there for a long time, like on that Raymond Terrace squad. Like all those names are well known, like played against them many, many, many times throughout the years. So yeah, it's not like there's a whole influx of new names or anything. Like those guys have been there a long time.
So I think in conclusion, mate, over the 3 years, it's been an absolutely brilliant success. There's been, although those three clubs have sort of dominated in terms of they've made finals every year. There has been a fluctuation. There's been one surprise package every year that's made it into finals, you would say.
Yeah.
So it is possible to do. Everyone on their given day can beat anyone in that competition. So I think it's been brilliant. It's just a matter of continuing to build on that.
Yeah.
So it brings me on to what we talked about earlier at the start of the show, mate, for a bit of fun. All right. English Premier League teams.
Yeah.
Wolsey, South Wales, Platinum Pennant teams. All right. Who would we compare to who? All righty. So I just said about Raymond Terrace there.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've built from within. They tend to have a decent squad. They sprinkle with a bit of talent from outside, but they've brought everyone up through in-house. And unfortunately, they just fell at the final hurdle this year.
Yeah.
That screams of Arsenal to me.
It absolutely does.
You were agreeing. All right. Please, folks, this is tongue in cheek. Don't get offended. But yeah, all right. So there's one. This is the type of stuff we're going to, all right? So let's go to St. John's Park.
Yeah.
Big club. Very big
Huge club. Yeah.
Got, in the past, have spent money everywhere on balls. They put a lot of money into the balls. But if you look at, let's say, the marquees this year, Blackie, he's very much in the Jackaroo setup at the minute. Until in May, not exactly was a household name at the time. He's playing BPL and stuff.
Plays a lot of BPL. Yep.
So they haven't gone and splashed the cash massively on. They're not full of Jackaroos the way some clubs are.
Yeah,
they've not splashed the cash. They've spent it strategically and gone pretty well with it. They're running a business and not just trying to splash cash.
Yeah.
Tottenham Hotspur. A little bit more successful than what Spurs are.
I think they are at the moment.
A little bit more
Get
successful. So we're talking more off the green for that one.
Yeah.
Talking more off the green for that one. In terms of performance on the green, are they Manchester United, mate? Because they're up and down the last couple of years. They're in the playoffs. They're out of the playoffs. They're in the playoffs.
Could be, yeah. Hot and cold. Yeah.
So a bit of a mixture of Spurs and Manchester United there for St. John's Park.
Yep.
Oh, I'm getting a text message about that one. All right. Warilla. Very consistent. 3 grand finals. Winning one of them. What does that scream of? Don't
3.
They've got 3 very, very good, very, very good players there. Again, not superstars throughout. Just a squad of players that are locals and do quite well. That's a tough one as well. I suppose maybe a more successful Arsenal.
Yeah. Successful Arsenal.
Maybe if Arsenal get up this year, you could say Warilla's a bit like Arsenal as well. You know, in terms of consistency over the last couple of years, maybe an Aston Villa. They've been a bit of, although Aston Villa's more been of a surprise package this year, in the last couple of years, but you know, moving on, who else have we got? Let's look at Cabramatta. So the only team you've played 3 seasons of Platinum Pennant and not use a marquee. In saying that,
yeah,
a lot of the players that work at the club or employed at the club have been brought into the club.
Yeah.
And come through the club. Are they more of
is that a Man City kind of go there?
Is it? Yeah, probably Man City. Because Man City over the last few years have developed from within pretty well. Like there's a few juniors coming in there. Yeah, maybe they're like a Man City. You know, let's go to Marylands. Plenty of money being spent there, up and down. Maybe they've only made finals once in 3 years.
Could
Chelsea?
be old Chelsea.
Chelsea, we're on the same page.
They're good at throwing out money, Chelsea. They're good at spending. Yeah, so that's maybe old Chelsea, yeah.
Chelsea. All right, well, let's go.
Who's your Cole Palmer then?
So let's look at Wendy's Aston Villa, mate. Have to be. Yep. Quiet achievers, plugging away, in they go there. If they had won the comp this year, they could have been Leicester City. It wasn't to be for Franklin.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And then, who else have you had over the years? Yeah. Charlestown Tigers did very well this year. They're definitely sort of floating around there like your Brentfords and your Bournemouths. Actually, you probably pick them as a Sunderland, because Sunderland you would have thought would have struggled this year, maybe gone down.
Yeah.
I think we both sort of maybe thought that. So maybe Charlestown are more like a Sunderland. They're up there in the top half of the table at the minute. A bit of a surprise. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Soldiers Point, Soldiers Point, probably an Everton. Again, they're up there. Didn't expect them to be, but they're up there. but they can be up there because they're good enough to be up there. David Moyes at the helm, Terry Antrim at the helm, similar personalities. I don't know. Carlingford finished 8th this year. They've just avoided relegation last year. I beg your pardon. Sorry, they were down in those. They were down in the chance of that last year, but they finished 8th the last 2 years in a row, and they finished 11th in year 1. All right, so they've certainly built up and done pretty well there. They're more of probably like a Bournemouth or a Brentford.
Yeah,
happy with that. Belrose, they're a bit of an anomaly at times, like sort of rich history, although Tarrant Point sort of punished them a couple of times in a row, didn't they, in the old number 1 days? But they're still a club striving to be up there. They're a big name, maybe not achieving quite as much as what they used to in the past. Maybe a Leeds United. What do you reckon? Will you take Leeds United or a West Ham for that one, Simon?
Yeah, I reckon something there, and they're on there would be pretty good, but
all right. Right, and then we got the 2 sides. We're down to the last 2 sides here, aren't we? So, yep, Charlestown we've got, Carlingford we've got, Soldiers Point we've got, Belrose we've got, East Maitland and Engadine Cougars. Engadine, former Premier League winner, former number 1 finalist, relegated this year after being in the top 5 the year before. That's a bit of a Spursy move, isn't it?
It definitely is.
That's a bit of a Spursy move as well.
Yeah.
So it is. They're down in the relegation at the minute. So maybe they're like a Spurs or, one of them thinking, I'd go for Spurs for them for this one. And finally, then the East Maitland Griffins. I'm not going to touch this one too much, man. I might leave this one to you because I get enough trouble there.
You can pass on that one.
I'll pass this one to you.
I'm going to go Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest for East Maitland.
Yeah.
Went well last year.
And
we've gone through 4 different managers.
Yeah.
I believe there's a change within the club too. Maybe that fits.
Down in the near relegation at the moment, old Nottingham Forest. So yeah, that maybe fitted there.
Yeah, I wonder how Ali Forsyth's going to take that one when he hears that one, Simon. That was all Simon. That was a good bit of fun there anyway, mate. That went pretty well, I thought. Hopefully the Aussie listeners get the grips with it, and hopefully the UK listeners, they can put into perspective what these clubs are actually like when they look at the English Premier League table. So next weekend when Manchester United are playing against Chelsea, they're going to think of Warilla against Marylands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just hope that Manchester United can win a title very soon, just like Warilla did.
Yeah.
All right.
Fingers crossed.
Well, mate, we've talked about your move to Brisbane.
Yeah.
So with that comes goodbye Sydney, goodbye Bulls, New South Wales, the superior STA. All right. And off to Bulls, Queensland.
What you're saying is the inferior?
I didn't say inferior. I did not. I said Bulls, New South Wales was superior. You're putting words in my mouth now.
Okay.
But anyway, you're heading above the border, mate. You're heading up in sunny Queensland. Have you seen what's going on there recently?
No. Enlighten me.
State trial squads have caused a little bit of controversy up there. So they have.
Enlighten us all.
So then we'll not get into it too much. We don't want to upset anyone because calendars are congested anyway. But it just shows you how bad calendar congestions are and why planning ahead is pretty good. But they named their trial squads. Then they've had to change a couple of players in that. Then they've named the matches to play with their trial squads. And they've put them on the last weekend of May, which is when there's some big events on. Like Yamba've got their Lighthouse 4s on. There's Australian Queensland indoor qualifiers on that week. There's the small thing of the Blue Diamond pairs at Broadbeach. And all these players are expected to be involved in the trials as well. So it's good luck when you move up there, Simon.
Well, I don't think I'll be going on any Queensland trial squad, so I'm pretty safe there, to be honest.
I don't know if they keep putting events on those weekends, you might get a run. Just don't enter the tournaments, mate. You might get a call up. Oh, you'll be in the over 40s by then. You never know. You might just get a run up there. But yeah. So it just shows you, mate. It is tough, mate. The calendars are so congested. There's new events popping up all the time because people just want to play all the time. We are getting to a point. I think it's just going to have to get to a point where some of the big events are going to have to be pinpointed pretty early.
Yeah. Locked in. Those are the dates.
And if something else happens on that particular weekend, you just got to choose. It's just going to have to be that way, mate. Because everyone just wants to play and everything. We can't cut everything out of the calendar. We can't just worry about what New South Wales is doing this weekend and then Queensland the week after and South Australia the week after and Victoria the week after and World Bowls, whatever they want to do for a couple of months' time. Bowls Australia and the Australian Open. There's just going to be things that are on, and people are going to have to choose, I think. But it was an interesting way for the trials to be announced, for it not to be in the calendar and suddenly just plucked out of a weekend when there's a couple of big things on. So be interested to see how they go north of the border. But yeah, this is one thing that's been going on, man. I just thought I'd make you aware of that, because
Thank you very much. Yeah.
in the not too distant future, we'll be making your way up there.
Do you, speaking of travels and making my way up there, do you know of any good rental companies to help me get my way up there?
Newcastle car and truck rental, Simon. Absolutely. We'll get them to deliver it down there for you. Todd, Georgia and team, they will look after you, man. Absolutely. So
Looking forward to it.
It'll be a few trips in the old C-class licensed little truck, though. Have you got a heavy good vehicles license you can drive up? Or? Yeah,
I think I might need it for all the bowls here in the garage to get them moved up. But yeah, I'm
sure when it comes to that, we'll have a chat to Todd and team, just like you can, folks. You heard it at the start of the show. We're very proud of our sponsors here. They do a lot for us, and we're very, very happy to support them. So by all means, if you're in the Newcastle area, you need to borrow a car, or you need something to move, give Todd and Georgia a shout over there at Newcastle Car and Truck Rental.
Absolutely.
Another plug. I'll get that's not even part of the contract, mate. We'll make it more of that now. That's good. Keep them happy. Actually, George is in a bit of trouble, mate. Just going changing tact here. George is a very, very good rugby league and rugby union player in the local area.
Yeah.
So she was playing for the Maitland Blacks there on the weekend with her sister Steph, who is an absolute gun. She's only just turned 18. She's an absolute gun. And George is in a little bit of trouble with the judiciary for turning a girl on her head, which is no good, because it means she's probably going to be banned for the pickers as well. But Todd sent me the video of that. That was funny.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. But they are good at renting cars. So they are. You not get turned on your head if you go in there. They'll look after you. All right, I think that's about it for this week, isn't it? No, nothing else to wrap up on. We've had a bit of fun. Hopefully no clubs have been offended by you naming them in different... comparing them to English Premier League teams.
Yeah, especially, if anyone's a Liverpool supporter and you called them an Arsenal.
Yeah, well, there's that too, I suppose. Yeah, or there's an Arsenal fan that got called Spurs. That could be pretty bad as well.
Anyway.
But yeah, anyway, all good. Look, folks, hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for episode 72. We'll work on some things to bring you there for that. I know we've got a few things lined up. Brett O'Reilly's pretty keen to get back on, have a chat to us about some of the things World Bowls have been doing. We're getting closer and closer to the Commonwealth Games. I see New Zealand had their team announced today. Mm-hmm. Congratulations to your friend, Ali Forsyth. I repeat, your friend.
Well done, G.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more in detail with obviously the men's, the women's, and the powers coming up. We know Canada have picked, England have picked. Northern Ireland's not too far away. Scotland shouldn't be too far away. Australia's heading over to Scotland shortly for a test series. We'll see what comes out of that as well. And yeah, we'll have a Commonwealth Games episode hopefully coming up about that. And yeah, we've got also Dane as well. We've got a meeting coming up with Dane. And for anyone that hasn't looked at it already, check out Gallo Bowls over there on Facebook. Dane's doing some real funny things there, and he's starting to do his own promotional stuff. But we're going to do a collaboration with Dane too, and just see how he got into that, and see if he can impart any wisdom onto Simon for some social media activity, which I think lacks a little bit at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, that should be a good one as well. So we do have that coming up over the next few episodes, folks. So keep tuning in. And by all means, if you've got any feedback or you want to hear something that we haven't spoke about, get in touch with Simon at thebowlsacademy.com. We will look at it. And for all those that are playing on the weekend, keep that little disc on the inside.
And good luck on those grains. The views, information, or opinions expressed during What a Load of Bulls podcast episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not represent those of any group, organization, or employer associated or affiliated to individuals. This podcast is for general information purposes only, to educate and inform. This podcast does not constitute professional advice or services. What a Load of Bulls does not guarantee the accuracy or reliability of any opinions expressed or statements made within episodes.